The dinner table question my dad asked every night to test my critical thinking about sex. Every evening at exactly 7:30, my father asked the same question. Not, how was school? Not, did you finish your homework? Instead, he looked me in the eye and asked, if everyone around you says something about sex is normal, how will you decide whether they are right or wrong? At first, I hated the question. I was 13, and I thought Dad was just trying to make dinner awkward. My younger sister rolled her eyes. Mom smiled quietly while serving food, as if she already knew where the conversation would go. I never had a good answer. I don't know. I just listen to adults. I do what my friends do. Dad would simply nod. Think about it. I'll ask again tomorrow. The next night. The same question. Every single night. Months passed. I started paying more attention, not because I wanted to impress Dad, but because I wanted him to stop asking. At school, conversations about relationships became louder. Some classmates bragged about experiences they probably hadn't even had. Social media was filled with influencers saying things like, if you really love someone, you'll prove it, or everyone is doing it. It sounded convincing. But Dad's question echoed in my mind. How do I know if they're right? One evening I finally answered differently. I guess I should compare what people say with my values and the consequences. Dad smiled for the first time. Good. Now ask yourself another question. What do people gain by convincing you? That question stayed with me even longer. As I entered high school, the pressure grew stronger. My best friend, David, began dating an older student. Soon he started teasing me. You're too innocent. You'll never get a girlfriend thinking so much. One Friday after school, David invited me to a party. There'll be alcohol. Couples. No parents. I knew exactly what kind of party it was. Part of me wanted to fit in. Another part remembered Dad's question. That night at dinner, he asked it again. Instead of giving an answer, I asked him one. Dad, why do you keep asking me the same thing? He put down his fork. Because one day I won't be there when someone pressures you. I can't make every decision for you. But if I teach you how to think instead of what to think, you'll protect yourself long after I'm gone. The room became silent. It wasn't about sex. It was about wisdom. The next evening I went to the party anyway. Not because I planned to do anything reckless, but because I wanted to see for myself. Music blasted through the house. People laughed loudly. Some students were already drunk. In one bedroom, a couple argued because one wanted to go further than the other. Outside, another girl cried after discovering someone had secretly recorded her. Suddenly, everything that looked exciting on social media seemed painfully real. This wasn't romance. This was confusion. Pressure. Regret. I quietly left. As I walked home under the street lights, I realized critical thinking wasn't about saying no to everything. It was about asking the right questions before saying yes. The following Monday, David looked miserable. His girlfriend had broken up with him after rumors spread online. He admitted he'd ignored several warning signs because he didn't want to seem uncool. For the first time, he asked me, "How do you always stay calm?" I laughed. "I don't." "Then how?" I smiled. My dad makes me answer one annoying question every night. Over lunch, I shared the question with him. Instead of laughing, David became quiet. He started asking himself the same thing. Weeks later, he apologized to several classmates for encouraging risky behavior and began making better choices. Watching him change reminded me that people can grow when they are willing to question their assumptions instead of blindly following the crowd. Years passed. I left for college. On my first night in the dorm, my roommate showed me videos claiming that relationships were just games and that emotions didn't matter. Others insisted the opposite. Everyone seemed certain. For a moment, I felt overwhelmed. Then I smiled. I already knew what to do. I asked myself. If everyone says this is normal, how will I decide whether they are right or wrong? I examined the evidence. I considered my values. I thought about respect, consent, responsibility, honesty, and the long-term consequences of my choices. The answer became clear. Not because someone told me what to believe, but because I'd learned how to think. Years later, I sat at my own dinner table. Across from me sat my curious 12-year-old son. He had started asking difficult questions about growing up, relationships, and what he saw online. I remembered every awkward dinner from my childhood. I smiled exactly the way my father used to. So, I asked gently, if everyone around you says something about sex is normal, how will you decide whether they are right or wrong? He groaned dramatically. Dad, not this again. I laughed. No, son. This isn't about getting the right answer tonight. It's about learning to ask the right questions for the rest of your life. In that moment, I finally understood my father's greatest lesson. He hadn't been testing my knowledge. He had been building my judgment. And that gift protected me far more than any lecture ever could. The greatest safeguard isn't fear, it's the ability to think critically, act with integrity, and treat yourself and others with dignity. This story emphasizes redemption through growth, wise decision-making, and the development of critical thinking rather than fear or shame.